Hi everyone, welcome to Python Osmosis episode 40, the screencast that introduces even the most perplexing Python features like generator expressions. I'm Ryan Shea, and in this episode we will be talking about generator expressions. So I'm going to go kind of slow through this. It was a small section in the Python tutorial, but for me at least it was a fabulously confusing one. I just want to review list comprehensions real quick. So if you remember, you could just take in square brackets an expression and expect it to return a list from another list. So let's take a look. If I wanted to make a list of squares, I times I for I in range 10. Okay, and this is easiest to read from right to left. Range 10, which is 0 to 9. Pull out each item, iterate through range 10, pull out I, and then square it. The thing on the left is what's returned on each iteration, and that'll produce a new list. So we see this square brackets. This is a list of all the squares for I in range 10. That's really commonly used. And what they want to show you here is generator expressions. If you just take, let's do this first. We'll take this list comprehension. We see the list that's up there, and we're going to get the sum of the squares. So that's 285. So a generator expression is just basically take what you'd have a list comprehension for and take off the square brackets. That's actually using generators to create an iterable and return to you a list. So it's just like a list comprehension, but it's less versatile than a full generator because it's really kind of like for a one-line generator. Again, memory usage is really the only reason. I don't use this in common practice, but we're going to run through these examples. Let's make a new list. Xvec equals 10, 20, 30. Yvec equals new list 7, 5, 3. Okay. Now I'm just going to show it to you how they show you in the tutorial, and then I'll kind of break it down. Sum x y for x y in zip xvec yvec. All right. That gives me the sum of, let's just go ahead and read this from right to left. So zip, if you remember, it takes two lists and it sort of glues them together. So if you have, in this case, here's our two lists. It takes 10, it sticks that to 7. So it iterates through and it'll return two items, x, y, right? So that'll return 10, 7 in x and y, 20, 5 in x and y, 33 in x and y. So now we're going to take those two, 10 and 7, and we're going to multiply those together. So 10 times 7. Now we're going to take the sum of that. It's going to be the sum of those products. And then that's going to give us 260. Now you could have done this with a list comprehension. So let's just basically change that out with square brackets. Okay. Actually, oh yeah, and I can still just do the sum on this. The sum of each of those squares is the same thing, 260. Let's do the next example from math, import pi sine. So we're going to make a table of sines. Here's the example they have. Sine table equals dict. If you remember that takes a list of two item lists or tuples and forces it into a dictionary, into key value pairs. X sine x times pi divided by 180. I'm not sure the reason for this. For x in range 0, 0, comma 91. Okay. This makes a table of sines. It's going to be a dictionary, so it takes from the range 0 to 91, pulls out that number, and then returns a tuple, and that tuple is the number itself, and then this sign of the number times pi divided by 180. This is clearly something that I don't remember from math class, so print make a pretty print of that. And there you go. It's just a table of all the signs for each of those numbers up to 90. Now, again, you could have done this with a list comprehension as well. Same sort of thing, just basically add in your square brackets, and then you're using more memory. Same thing. Let's look at the next one. This is kind of interesting. My file equals open. I've got fibbo.py in my directory here, and let's create unique words equals, this is their example, set of word for line in my file for word in line dot split. I think this is fabulously confusing, and I would never use this, but maybe it's easy for you to understand. So now if we look at unique words, we have this set which contains all of the unique words that were in that file. So if we break this down a little bit more slowly, reading from right to left, we're going to take each line. Actually, now you have to kind of read it from here. So for each line in my file, for each word in that line, which is determined by splitting that line on white space, return the word. So this is going to just give you all the words in a nice big list, and now that's going to force it into a set. Set, if you remember, is kind of like a list, except for every item is guaranteed to be unique, and you don't have any guaranteed order for the set. And that's basically what we just did. Again, you could have done this with a list comprehension. So let's do another one. This one they call valedictorian, and I actually have to create a new class for this. So let's create a class student, and just inherit from object, create our constructor, init, and then in here we're going to have self always. We need name, and we need GPA. All right, and this is just simple. Self dot name equals name. Self dot GPA equals GPA. All right, kind of a silly class, but now let's just create a couple of students in a list. Let's do graduates equals, just create an empty list, and then we can just do dot, we'll append onto that list student, and then we're going to create a student, and we're going to give him a name. That's me. And we're going to give him a GPA 3.0. Alright, put that student, put Timmy has a 4.0, and Jimmy has a 1.0. And now we can say valedictorian. Actually, let's just go ahead and take a look at that list. It's just a list of those student objects. And now valedictorian equals max. If you remember, the max function will return the maximum item in a list. If it's a list of numbers, it'll return the highest number. We're going to do our generator expression, student.gpa, student.name. Remember, if you pass to max 2 items, it'll basically do the max on the first one. So we're going to do the maximum GPA. That's going to give us our valedictorian. And then we're going to also return to max the name for student in. So it's going to loop through each of these objects. And that should be good. Okay, so now valedictorian, it figured out, Max figured out that the max GPA was 4.0 for this list. Kind of contrived, but it does the job. Once again, list comprehensions could have done the same job. Okay, last example here equals golf. Just create a string. List data I for I in range length data -1. So starting at the first item from the end until you get to -1, so go all the way past 0. That's when you know to end, and then decrement by 1 each time. And this sort of does the same sort of thing that we did in our generators example. It reverses everything. So that's all for now. This screencast is directly inspired by the official Python tutorial by Guido van Rossum at python.org.